1885, the year Velate Richardson was born. Today, 98 years later, Velate shares her memories with school children. And Channel 3's Marty Gonzalez.
Velate Richardson spends quite a bit of time in her kitchen. Velate bakes her own bread 3 times a week. She says she has never purchased a loaf of bread. Among her other chores, Velate also preserves fruit. Velate Richardson is 98 years young. In her lifetime, 12 states have joined the Union. 18 men have been president. She has lived through everything from the invention of the airplane to seeing men walk on the moon. But through it all, Velate has also taken the time to stop and smell the roses.
Oh, boy, have I got pretty roses here. I don't think there's anything that I haven't done, and, yet. I've done everything. I've worked on the farm, I've sewed, I've kept house.
Have you had a happy life?
Happy life. I've been very happy. I've tried to make myself happy.
But all of that work just isn't enough for Velate. She needs more to keep her busy. So once a year, she becomes teacher for a day. This is the 4th year Velate had shared her life with students at Center School. It's not often that the young people meet a living history book.
When it was the first telephone, I was just a little kid, and
she's beautiful. I like her. She's funny. The way she talked, I'm surprised. An old lady like that, how healthy she is.
I always loved children, and I think they're interested. I want them to know some of the things that I went through that they don't have to go through.
Do you consider yourself a young person?
Yes, I do. I don't have patience with older person like I should.
Well, Velate, maybe that patience will come with age. In Sacramento, Marty Gonzalez, Channel 3 reports.
You're a great lady. We'll see you at 11. For all of us at KCRA-TV Sacramento, that's it.
Channel 3 reports.
Outrageous. Looks like it's a small city, you know. It's dry ice. It sticks to the bottom.
It's my Lord.
It's like a...
Is he gonna get Dad? Is the monster gonna get Dad? Monster. It's her monster.
Monster's over. Erase it all and go right over it anytime. Too easy. Bob's got one of those on vacation. A bunch of people back there. Yellowstone.
And we got picture of Roy riding the horse with jackass.
I got a horse with a little English saddle.
You didn't make it. You dropped your son, if you remember. Mine's not me. You understand her? No,
The light off?
Your cake, grandmother. There you go. Is that okay? Well, that's the way it should be. Unless your birthday, you have a lot of pictures.
They took a lot of pictures.
All right, Chad, you're on camera, so don't be spilling any ice cream now.
You do a good job. You take that. We'll be able to see that and laugh at it.
Bye.
Because I zoom, but then I start zooming.
Oh, then you have to push it a second time.
much.
It's still recording.
Right now it is?
Yeah.
So then she went, she ran into you, and she told me, she said, look, Chad,
That's it, right there, that's what you got.
yeah.
think she hit that hard though, but...
One thing about them cats, they ain't dumb.
I wasn't even sure if it was on that side.
They put feelers out and they found out what the American
Hey, kid.
wants.
What are you doing?
I think we go about
What are you
half speed
doing?
as far as they put just enough chrome stuff on there to snazzy and racy and make it good enough so it'll last a while.
I think the monster's down here. I think this is the monster.
All right, Ron,
Maybe you should talk to the monster.
let's do a good recovery on that one.
There's 18.
Wait a minute, I'm going to have a picture taken.
Oh yeah? What's that? It looks like brand new and did it real fast. Boy, you better sure does good body work. Blah, blah, blah. Because it was wrecked before. My brother did it. He said he wouldn't do it again.
Hey!
Oh my God. To unload a jet ski. The back end of the El Camino was floating. That one? Yeah. The gas.
Give it a kick.
Kick it.
Doesn't have her shoes on.
Kick it. It won't hurt your shoes.
Alicia, that's a softball.
Give it a kick.
Alicia, turn around over here. Throw me the ball. Throw me the ball.
Throw the ball.
Alicia, what's the elephant do?
And I got, or Chad, I've got the evidence. I caught you in grandmother's flower garden.
No.
Yep.
Get it all together. Come on. We don't want no blazes in the background.
Go ahead, Tam, get in and I'll run over in just a moment.
Hey, you want to get in the picture? I'll take a picture. One of those little things that's 4, 3, 2, 1.
Look at Daddy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. No, Shannon, why don't you stand right there?
Now, while the baby's up like this, you ought to take you. She's just good.
Hello, Sierra.
Can't beat it now.
Where's your father? Look at Daddy. Daddy. Stand right there by my shoes. I'll go get him. Right here.
Alicia, look over here.
Shoes. Two family things in one weekend. No, it
Come out and look at Daddy.
Yeah.
He's going to get your
Well,
shoes.
that'd be big time one, but I don't think it'd be another double weekend.
Way to go, Chad.
I know. I asked her the other day what she's going to do when she hits the 150 mark.
Zoomed all the way back out. Okay. When was it that we moved over here, grandmother?
Huh?
Remember when we came in from Arizona and you first bought the house? It was about 1941. Was it 41, 40? Do you remember? You know, when we first came up to look at the property and you went out with the real estate agent? About when was that?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Did I get those? Did John get them?
Put glass packs on that baby.
That makes it cute.
So the key just clicked on.
No, hop. Go hop.
Can you hop? Slow down, slow down.
I'll erase all that. I can't have record.
Yeah, it's all live sound. This windmill up on top of the pump house my dad built about 1953.
Oh, yeah?
It's been on there down just once or twice.
Huh. Built the year after I was born. What I'm saying now, if you're shooting?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can hear exactly what we're saying.
Okay.
I'm getting a picture of Roy's Roy's Bronco, and the guy's checking out the tires.
Everybody's going, hey, nice tires, man. Yeah, that's really nice. Come on, Dad.
No, that didn't come off there. We don't put that many weight on it. I think it's only 150. I showed her the tire to him. No, that's there's something wrong. I go, hey.
I don't like to see her sitting here alone. Shirley,
Here's some stories we haven't heard.
Shirley, would you get a few of your relatives to come up and sit with your grandmother? Just a couple of their white ladies, yeah. Well, we have a little program we'd like to put on tonight. We're going to entertain Velate, but we'd like you all to enjoy it also. There's still, I think, a few more chairs open. Well, there's not very many, so we hope you're... Is there some back there? Okay, there's a few back there, and there's a couple back by the wall back here. Okay, to start out our program tonight, can I have your attention a minute? I know I got a loud voice, but it starts getting hoarse after a while. To start out our program tonight, we have Frank Welch, who is going to sing for us. He will announce his own numbers, but he will be accompanied by Joe Child on the piano. So, Frank.
Really right out of being alive, and this is the best part. You have a head start if you are among the very young at heart. You can go to extremes with impossible schemes. You can laugh while your dreams fall apart at the seams, and life gets more exciting with each passing day. And love is either in your heart or on its way. Don't you know that it's worth every treasure on earth to be young at heart? If you're young at heart, and if you should survive to 105, think of all you derive out of being alive, and this is the best part.
Welcome you to this very special assembly honoring our friend Velate Richardson on her 100th birthday. Actually, yesterday was her birthday, and so she is 100 years and 1 day old today. She's already started on that second 100 years. I'd like to introduce to you our special guest that we've invited here today to share this celebration with us. Do we have, I don't see any board members here, so we have our district superintendent, Dr. Robert Bagley. Would you please stand just a moment, folks, as I call your name so the students can see who you are and where you are. And we have the commander from McClellan Air Force Base, Colonel John Wood. We have the mother of our student body president, Mrs. Hawkins. We have my wife, Mrs. Ingeborg Wright. From Jean Moorhead Duffy's office, and I'm saying Moorhead because some of you may not know her by her new name, but she now goes by Jean Duffy, Assemblywoman Duffy. We have Barbara Beller, Carol Osborne. From Congressman Vic Fazio's office, we have Maggie Shaleen. And we have our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. John Trotta.
She was standing in the line. The first person was her granddaughter in her early 30s, and then Mrs. Richardson, and then her son, who's only 80 years old. And there were 2 chairs, and I said, Velate, how come there's only 2 chairs? And she said, well, that's for Nathan and Shirley in case they get tired. And so, at 100 years of age, she's a very spry young lady. I'd like to read just something to you to give you a little background on Mrs. Richardson. I might say that one day I was watching, or one evening, Little House on the Prairie. Not too exciting by your standards, but I was watching it and I started to think, this is what we're studying in U.S. history. And I know somebody who lived way back in those days. And so we asked Mrs. Richardson if she would come. And she came, and as Mr. Wright said, we've enjoyed having her. Let me give you just a little background. Mrs. Richardson was born in Rockport, Utah. That's close to Park City, the great ski resort, on April 14, 1885. She was the second child in a family of 4 girls. She was strong and loved to work outside, helping her father haul hay. Velate and her sisters rode in their horses to a one-room schoolhouse 3 miles away in Oakley. When she was 10, the family moved to Park City. Velate moved to Arizona, where she and her husband ran a motel business for about 10 years. And then since 1945, she has lived in the Carmichael area. Now, Mrs. Richardson has 11 grandchildren, 17 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. She's helped raise several of her grandchildren at the death of their parents. Now, I don't know if she's changed from last year. Velate, have you ever eaten store-bought bread?
Oh, yeah, we had some for breakfast.
Uh-oh. Bad news, folks. A couple of years ago, her teeth had never tasted store-bought bread, but she still makes bread. I spoke to her last week, and I said, are you getting ready for the big weekend? And she said, oh, yes, I'm baking bread and biscuits every day. Now, what's happened since Mrs. Richardson has been born? I think this is what's interesting. Since Mrs. Richardson was born, there have been 19 different men serve as presidents of the United States. 12 states have joined the Union. You know, in my lifetime, I think of Alaska and Hawaii, but listen to what states have joined the United States of America since Mrs. Richardson was born. Alaska, Arizona, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Utah, Washington, Wyoming. And when you start thinking of that land west of the Mississippi, you can see that she's lived during those great times. Since Mrs. Richardson's been alive, the Spanish-American War has been fought. World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. The League of Nations was started and failed. The United Nations has been started. In her lifetime, what are some of the inventions? Well, she'll tell you about some of the inventions, but from that beautiful cake that was made, you can see that the inventions in her lifetime have gone all the way from the electric light, the telephone, to the man on the moon. 10 amendments have been made to the Constitution. And so Mrs. Richardson has lived a long, full life. I'm very happy to have her with us today. Now, Mr. Herman's 8th grade history classes spent some time this past week discussing how we would handle this today. And so we have questions that the 8th grade history students put together to ask a person who's lived 100 years. Now, one time I asked Mrs. Richardson, would you just like to sit down and answer the questions? And in no uncertain terms, she said, no, I can stand. Do you still stand or sit? Okay, now, I'm going to go over these questions here. And one question is quite interesting. It is, Velate, what is the first thing that you can remember in your life?
The first thing I can remember in my life, my mother put a little note on me and asked me to go over to my father. My little sister died, and I was 2 years and a half old. And they said, you don't, then I tell them how old I was, what I did. They said, oh, you don't remember. I said, I sure do. I said, now, this is what happened, Mother. You pinned a note on me and told me to go over to Father. And I said, I went and you come and picked me up and carried me across the little bridge. And I went on, Father met me halfway and picked me up and carried me home. Well, yes, you do know that's what happened. And I said, when we got back, Father sent me down to the cabin. We was living in a cabin without any doors or windows in it because Father was building us a house there. We had a dirt floor and everything. And I was telling him all about that, and I said, Father went out to he went into the cabin, and he went outside and took some wheels, wagon wheels, out of the ditch. And that's all I remember, that he put them onto the wagon, and we went down to my grandmother's house. And I told them that, and they couldn't believe it. So.
Well, that's only 97.5 years ago. That's a pretty good memory. What were farms like when you were a little girl?
Well, you sat on a piece of ground, and then your cattle was all wild. So you had to tame everything you got. And my father went out in the field getting sagebrush off of the ground, and he would see a sage hen sitting there. So he watched her. When she got off, it was going to hatch. Why, he took his hat and he picked up all the little chickens and he'd bring them home, and we'd put them in one pen, and then we'd move them into another, and we'd move it into another, and then when we got big enough, see, they were big enough then to put the chicken out. And that's how we got our chickens, and they were all wild. And that's the way everybody got their chicken. And he done that with the sheep. He stole the sheep from the mothers, and we got all kinds of birds. We even had peacocks, but we didn't keep them because they didn't pay. Anything that wouldn't pay, why, we didn't bother much with them. And the horses, they would dig a hole on their path that they went down to the river to drink. They were on the hills. They would go, he and his brother, and dig a hole and cover that with brush, and the first horse fell in while they had him. And they got 2 horses so they could get to drive the rest in. When they got these 2 horses broke in, why, then they made a big corral, and they would drive these horses in the corral and pick out what they wanted, and you had to tame them. And the first horse, I got to tell you about that. Can I? My father came in and he said, I bought your horse today. Well, that was like an automobile these days, you know. He said, go out and look at it. And I went out and I looked at it, and that horse was jumping and running and screaming. I came back in and I said, Papa, I can't train that horse. He's too wild. Oh, yes, you can, he said. I said, what am I going to do? You'll find a way. You'll find a way. You'll do it. So that night I went to bed and I thought, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I went and got some oats in the nose bag the horses had to eat the oats out of. And I sat on that fence for days, coaxing that horse, calling him Dick, to eat. And he was getting weaker and weaker. He was hungry. And the horse on the outside, then he came and tried to get the oats away from me. And I thought, well, why don't I put him in there and let him eat the oats and see if he'll come that way. So I did. I pulled the fence down so he could come and get in, and then I put the oats in there, and he ate the oats. And the horse started to eat the oats. And when he did, I knew I had him, so I took the other horse out, and I went in to Mother. We only had one milk bucket, one bucket that we milked in it, we drank out of it and everything, and I said, Mama, can I take the bucket out and give Dick a drink? Oh, she says, I don't know. We drink out of that. I said, I'll wash it out. So I gave my horse a drink out. She let me have it.
Now, you've told me a story one time about your favorite horse and how it used to let you get on him.
When I got that horse trained, I was feeding him. I was sitting on the fence. I was too little to be down, and he walked over the fence and rubbed the fence, and he got so close to me that I commenced to rub him, see. And finally, one day, I decided I'd get on. So I got on and rode, and he gave me a ride around the corral. So I ran in and told my mother, and she said, "Oh, you didn't get on him?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You haven't ride him?" I said, "No." "Well, how'd you get off?" I said, "He went back to the fence and took me off." And now, people don't believe this, but this is the God's truth. We go up in the morning to get the cows. Then we put them in the field, on a hill in the winter at night. Then we have to go after them at daybreak. And that horse would go, I'd get my dog and we'd go up there, and that horse would take me along. And one morning, we got the wrong path. It was too narrow. Well, it wasn't too narrow, but there was so much brush. And he went through, and I fell off on his tail. Well, then I didn't know what I was going to do, but he went right on, and pretty soon he turned back. He went to where he could turn around. Came back, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Dick, I'm stuck now." I said, "I don't know what I'll do. I can't get on." I said, "This brush won't hold me." So what'll I do? He put his head down, and I stepped in the reins, and he threw me on his neck. And he would never let me get on his neck where there's a fence. If ever there was a fence, he'd drive over the fence. He didn't want to put his neck down for me to jump on.
Pretty good horse. Now, one of the questions the kids wanted to know is, what did you do for money? Did you have lots of money as a little girl growing up?
Oh, I never had nothing. We didn't have anything. We didn't know what money was. When we did get money, we didn't want it because we didn't need it. We lived without money. We had everything we needed because we didn't need anything, and we only had the clothes we had on our back. We'd have to go to bed while we washed our clothes, and we always had plenty to eat because my father knew how to live that way. We had our own meat, we had our own chickens, we had our own milk, and we made everything, and we used ashes for everything. We didn't say, there was nothing we throw away.
Tell them what you used the ashes for.
Well,
maybe these girls especially would like to know. What do you think?
Well, we had to make our own soap, for one thing. So we used the ashes to make soap. And then we used the ashes for the bathroom. And we used the ashes to clean our silverware. Well, we didn't have silverware, but we had knives and forks, and those, we only had one knife and fork for each one. For a long time, my sister and I had to wait till my father got through with the spoon so we could have, Mother and Father give us a spoon so we could eat with the spoon. And we kept everything nice and clean. And we had this ashes with a little pan there with the water, a rag that we sure saved. And we would take that rag and polish the knives and forks. They had wooden handles.
Let me ask you, you mentioned that the dress you had that you wore during the day, you washed it out at night. How did you get the material for your dresses, and did everybody in town have a different color of dress?
Well, we saved all the hides from the animals that my father, anything that would die, no matter how little it was, he would clean it and hang it on the fence to dry, and we had a man that would come around, we called him the hide man. He would buy these hides, but you see, we had no money, so he would bring some material that we could make a dress out of, or some unbleached muslin and a few pins and things we could use, scissors and things we could cut out with. And so one time he brought some black and red plaid material, next church, and when we got into church, everybody had the same dress on. Because they was glad to get anything. So they all had the same colored dress. That wasn't the sign.
Velate, one of the questions that the students have asked, what was your first knowledge of the telephone?
Well, I don't remember just exact. Oh, why, yes, I do.
Are you getting old and forgetting?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit forgetting. The first telephone, my mother took me down to my aunt's, and I was standing by the side of the wall, and there was a can hanging on the wall. And the wall, it shook, and I didn't know what it was, but she went over to the can, and she says, Sally, Lizzie's here with the 2 children, come on down. So I guess that was the first telephone.
Have you ever been on an airplane, and how old were you?
Huh?
Have you ever been on an airplane, and how old were you the first time you flew?
I was 95.
They should have given you a free trip, shouldn't they?
They should.
How was that first trip?
Well, it was fine. I went to my grandson's wedding in Salt Lake. That's the first time I was on an airplane.
Have you flown since?
Yes, I have. I went back to my aunt's, my father's sister's, her 100th birthday. My uncle was 90, I was 95, and she was 100.
And I think that was just a year or 2 ago, and you said you hoped that you would be able to have the same thing, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Velate, another question. As a young girl, 2 things. Did you ever keep a diary? And secondly, when did you start wearing makeup?
Well, that's, them days, if you went out with a boy, he had to ask his father if he could take you to dance, because there's only dances, there was nothing else to do. If he could go take you to dance. And then if he did, he had to come and have dinner with you at night, and we called it supper, and he had to help wash the dishes, and then we get the dishes washed, then we went in to get ready. So they was then starting to have a little rouge for your cheeks, you know. And I had a friend that was making it, and I asked her if I could have some so I could for the dance. Well, she forgot to bring it to me until I was getting ready, and she came to the bedroom window, and she hit on the window, and she said, here's your rouge, here's your rouge. Well, I lifted up the window and got the rouge and put it on, and I was all ready to go out. I walked out, and my father and the boy was sitting in the kitchen. And I walked out, and Father looked at me, he says, where are you going? I says, to the dance. He said, go wash your face. So I have never used makeup at all.
How about a diary? Did you ever keep a diary?
No, I didn't, did I?
I haven't read it.
I don't think I had a diary.
Okay. Velate, who do you think would be your favorite president of the United States?
Donald?
Your favorite president of the United States?
Oh, I didn't have any. I think now I'll have to say Reagan.
Okay, now, I'll tell you, I was going to mention this a little bit later, but do you know why she says now she has to say President Reagan? Because Saturday night she received a very nice letter from President Reagan congratulating her for being 100 years old. And I'm hoping when I turn 100 I'll get a letter from the President too.
November.
Can you believe it?
50 happy years.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to ask another question, because you don't mind. How old are you?
I'm 74.
So
I'm
you are
75.
75 years old.
Just had a birthday.
Just had a birthday, and I think it was on St. Patrick's Day,
That's
right?
correct.
I remember
yes.
you telling me that.
And I received a greeting from you.
Oh, listen, I wanted you to know you are 3/4 of a century old. Do you know that?
That frightens me.
That frightens you to know that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I've got someone over here on this side who's got you beat. This is Velate Richardson. Velate, tell us how old you are.
I'm 98.
98
98 on the 14th of April.
Oh, can you believe it? 98? You're almost 100 years. That's a century.
That's right.
Can you believe it?
Well, I don't feel it.
Oh, you don't look it either. I don't think people would, you know, walking down the street would know that you are almost a century old.
Well, thank you.
I bet you get told that a lot, though, huh? When you were 25 years old, did you ever think you were going to live to be 98 or?
I never thought about it. I had too much fun.
When you were 25, what did you think about someone who was 75 or 100 years old?
Well, when they was 40, they was old.
Aha.
Yeah.
You're 40. Oh, dear. Okay. So you thought that 100 would be pretty old.
Oh, my, yes.
You people are a real inspiration, and I must tell you, I just feel so good in your presence because I feel like you exemplify what we're trying to say today. How do you grow old gracefully? What is the secret? How do you do that? McLean?
I would say that if you keep busy doing worthwhile projects and trying to serve your fellow men.
All right, and you've tried to do that.
I have tried to do that.
I bet you have. I bet if we had all day, you could tell us about some things you've done. And how about you, Maxine?
Well, I keep busy. I keep busy with the things that the wife has to do, and I keep busy listening to him study and practice and run the typewriter, and with my cooking and my family. Mother's always busy.
You keep busy. And how about Velate? I know some things you do. What do you do to keep busy and your mind alert?
Well, I do everything. I keep house. I make my own bread. I never buy bread.
I know, and you made me some the other night. I appreciate that, and it's good, too.
Oh, I work in the yard.
You still work in the yard?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
My goodness sakes. And I know you take care of your grandkids. You've got a real secret to life. And we're going to hear some more about the secret of life. We have a musical number we're going to enjoy. Two young missionaries are going to present the secret of life. Here's Elder John Shepherd and Elder James Beckworth. The secret of life.
Secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. Any fool can do it. There ain't nothing to it. 'Cause nobody knows how we got to the top of the hill. Since we're on our way down, we might as well enjoy the ride. The secret of love is in opening up your heart. It's okay to feel afraid, but don't let it stand in your way. 'Cause anyone knows that love is the only road. And since we're only here for a while, we might as well show some style. Give us a smile. Isn't it a lovely ride? See me sliding down, gliding down. Try not to try too hard. It's just a lovely ride. And the thing about time is that time isn't really real. It's just your point of view. How does it feel for you? 'Cause Einstein said he could never understand it all. Planet spinning through space, the smile upon your face. Welcome to the human race. Some kind of lovely ride. See me sliding down, gliding down. Try not to try too hard. It's just a lovely ride. Isn't it a lovely ride? See me sliding down, gliding down. Try not to try too hard. It's just a lovely ride. The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time.
Wasn't that pretty? Did you hear the words to that? The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. Now, we talked about growing older and wiser. You know, we always think if you live long, then you're really wise. Is that true? I mean, are you wise? Are you wiser than I am because you're older?
I don't believe so automatically. I think you need to study and learn. Otherwise, you'll forget much that you've learned when you were younger if you don't keep progressing and becoming wiser through your study.
Is it right for us to expect you to be wiser? I mean, you know, you've lived 3/4 of a century.
Well, as McLean said, unless you study and educate yourself and improve your mind. But I do think through our experiences over the years, we've become a little wise in some respects. I know I wouldn't make the mistakes now I did when I was in the teens or 20s or 30s or 40s. So I think I'm a little wiser about things in regard to life now.
But you don't regret that, do you? The fact that you've learned through experience some hard ones?
No, I think that the best way we can learn is through experience and to avoid pitfalls and things that are wrong for us. I believe that's the way we learn in life. So I know I've learned that way.
I appreciate that. I had an interesting experience. I wanted to know how many months, how many weeks, how many minutes you all have lived. You know what I found out? I had my boy do this for me. You have been alive through the presidencies of 19 U.S. presidents. Can you believe it? They have 15 presidents.
15.
That's right.
You have lived 900 months, 1,100 months. And we get down, we're talking about 35,000 days, 850,000 hours. How many minutes? For her, almost 100 years old, 51 million minutes.
But you can't believe it.
Can you believe it?
No.
Now, how have you made the most of those? Come on, give us a secret.
Well, I don't think I have any secret. I love people. That's one thing.
I know you do.
And I have tried to live as close to the church as I could.
You try to keep your faith and
I tried,
hope.
and I feel that that's helped me a lot.
Great, and we know it has. You know, you're in the winter of life. That's what we call this. And life goes in cycles just like everything else. And we wouldn't want to miss one. We don't want to miss spring. We don't want to miss summer, autumn. But you are glorying in your winter. And we have a special song we want to share with you. Deanna Clark wrote a song especially for us. It's called Like Unto the Seasons. Deanna Clark.
Like unto the seasons unfolds a life, fresh and new in the beginning. Tiny little baby, a rosebud sweet, meant to keep the world always singing. Every spring morning they reach higher to touch the sky above them, and by summer days they've grown and grown. Who wouldn't stop to delight in their beauty and love? to store it through the winter for their babes who yearn to be like unto the seasons and blossom all over again.
Wasn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Oh, it just makes you feel good.
It really does.
Now, one quick advice for some of us who are not quite so old. Can you help us get into the winter of life a little more gracefully? Clayton, have you got a word to the wise here?
I would say that set high goals for yourself and try to achieve those goals.
And you've done that.
I've tried to.
You sure have. How about Maxine?
I would say stay close to our church, listen to the advice that is given us, and live each day to the very happiest and best of our ability.
Okay, and Velate, will you come back on the show when you're 100?
I will. I'll be here.
Okay, and I bet you will. Yeah, we saw some pictures of you and your grandchildren. They're
Yes.
so proud. Great-grandchildren, too.
Yeah, great-grandchildren.
What have they learned from you?
Well, I don't know really what they've learned from me, but I've tried to teach them the right way, and I hope that they stay with the church and
enjoy your good sense of humor. This is what's so fun to be with you. Thanks so much for being with us, and we really appreciate it. We have been inspired today.
There was all kinds of fruit, and we would get this fruit and put it up for the winter. Summertime, we was always working to get ready for winter because we couldn't get out in the winter time. And we never did lock our door and shut the door and left. And when we came home this night, somebody had come in and fixed themselves something to eat and left my father a big pocket knife. And to anybody that passed, they never think anything of coming in and fixing themselves something to eat if nobody was home. You never locked your doors, and nobody ever bothered anything. Now I can't go in the backyard without locking the door.
I think you told me one time that when these people came and would eat, they'd always clean up, wouldn't they?
Oh, yes, they would do the dishes. There wasn't much to do, but they'd always do the dishes before they left.
Okay, now, Mrs. Richardson, what were schools like when you were a young girl, and did you ever get in trouble?
I sure did. Them days, they was only, all grades were together, first, second, up to the 8th grade, because there's only about maybe 10 or 15 kids. And we had a big chart there, and the older boys would throw notes to me to throw with the girls, So
Our students wouldn't do that today, though.
they wouldn't. And so I would get this note, and I think the teacher wasn't looking, So I grabbed it up, but I never could throw it without him seeing me throw it. He didn't see the boys throw it, but he'd see me throw it, see? So he said, Blake, get your speller and get behind the chart. Well, I do that. I get behind the chart, and of course then I'd stick my hands out, stick my feet out, and get the kids to laugh, and he'd say, Blake, you're not stuttering your spelling. Well, of course I wouldn't. They're having fun. And so it went along for, I don't know, I'm trying to think how many years it was. He was really an old man then. He was a lawyer. His name was White. And my sisters wanted to go to Washington, and she didn't have a birth certificate. And we didn't know how he was going to get a birth certificate. So somebody said, well, why don't you go see Lawyer White, Lee White. He'll give you kids a birth certificate. He's known you all his life. And we didn't think well, he'll be old, you know. We thought it was all right. So we walked up there, we went to his office, and his son was in there. We asked his son if the father was there. He said, no, he isn't in. He says, who are you? We told him who we were, and he says, sit down. And he went in the back room, and Father was there. So he come out, and he says, go on in. So we went in, and he stood up there, and he said, which one is Velate? And I said, I'm sorry, but I give you a hard time. I'm her. No, he said, I want to tell you something. I've been waiting for years. I wanted to see you so bad to tell you that you wasn't so bad. He said, you know, I get the place where I ate. I didn't like the food, but your mother was a wonderful cook. So he said, I wanted to get a good meal. He said, I've done everything I could to catch you something so I could take you home. And we had to ride a horse home. And my sister go out and get on the horse, and I said, I got to go home. He says, never mind, I'm going to take you home. So he says, that's why I took you home. He says, I just used your lead.
Once again, our teachers wouldn't do that today. No, all honest. Velate, what do you think, I'm going to ask you two questions. What do you think is the greatest invention to you, and what do you think is the one that's not so good?
Well, I think the most was the lights. That was the most important thing. And I don't know what it, I guess they've invented every lot something, I think. Then I think another thing is that if you couldn't live like we live. Nobody could do that anymore. They had to carry water, wash on the board, and it was a hard life, but I'd like to live it over again. I was very happy, and we had, you know, because everybody was just the same.
What kinds of medicine did you use when you were a little girl?
We didn't have very much medicine. We used colon and lard to put on your chest if you had a cold, and that was about it.
Did the Indians ever help you with any herbs or medicines?
Oh, yes, they did. They was very good about that. They would tell us what we had to have and what would help us, and we listened to them.
They did. Okay. What were the wages like when you started working compared to what you think the wages are today?
They wouldn't believe it if I told them that I worked.
Well, we have some older people here on the front row, and they might remember.
Did you ever work for 25 cents a day? That's what I got. 25 cents a day, and if they didn't have the 25 cents, they'd give me a pound of butter.
A pound of butter.
That was it.
Now, a question the students have. How old were you when you first went to a doctor?
Oh, I don't know. I don't believe in doctors, so I stay away as much as I can. I think you should know how to take care of your own body. So, I don't know, I was about, I guess 60 before I really went to a real doctor.
Now, another question, this is getting personal. How did you brush your teeth as a young girl, and do you still have your own teeth?
Well, they didn't have no toothbrush. You didn't brush your teeth. You got pitch from pine trees. We chewed that, and I guess that was our toothbrush. We didn't have any toothbrush. So when I started to get toothache, I didn't bother any. I just went up there and I said, take them all out. I ain't going to be bothered with toothache. So I went and had my teeth all out, but I was, I guess, 40, 50 years old then. So I wasn't bothered with toothache. I just had them pulled and had both teeth.
Okay, now, what advice could you give to these young ladies and gentlemen on how to eat and how to drink and how to sleep so they can live to be 100 years old? What don't you do?
Well, what I don't drink tea or coffee, and I don't smoke, and well, I try to take care of myself, and I don't overeat. But I like to eat like anybody else, but I try not to overeat. And I never drink any soda pop of any kind. That's carbonated water I don't drink.
Now, last year you told the kids a funny story about the kind of meat you do eat and the kind of meat you don't eat.
Well, I don't eat beef. I can eat a little chicken maybe, or fish. I like fish, but I can't eat meat. And the reason I can't, because I love my animals. I loved every cow we had, and they just, and I never was kicked with a cow. I milked a lot of cows, and I never went into the barn where they were that I didn't say something to them. My father taught me that. Don't sneak up on them. He said, just go in there and holler, good morning, or ho to some of the cows. They know you're there. And he says, you'll never have any trouble. So I didn't. And I couldn't eat a piece of beef and enjoy it because I feel like I was eating them.
Now, you told us, though, last year that there was one farm animal you had that you would eat once in a while because you didn't like them. What was that?
Oh, I could eat pork once in a while because I hate the pigs.
She didn't like the pigs, so she wouldn't mind eating pig. Velate, do you remember when any of the presidents of the United States were shot?
Yes, but who was it? I forget. Oh, yes, Kennedy.
How about President McKinley?
Yes, I remember when he was shot, too.
Okay, now, Velate, our time is getting short. We have 2 or 3 more questions. One is, what advice can you give these young people today to grow up to be good citizens?
Well, now, if you just take care of yourselves, not overdo, and live like I lived, I think you'll be able to make it. And I can't tell you anything else. I eat most everything, but I don't eat meat, and I don't drink carbonated water, and I don't smoke, and I think that's the whole thing.
Okay, now, next year, are you going to be here to talk to the students on your 101st birthday?
I certainly am.
Okay, power of positive thinking. Kids, have you enjoyed this time with Mrs. Richardson? Mr. Wright has a question for Mrs. Richardson. Then we're just going to sit for a few moments and have our band entertain us for one number, and then there are some special presentations to make. So, Mr. Wright.
This is a question. When Velate was 94 and came out, Mr. Boucher had said, Velate, if you make it to 100, I'm going to take you out for an evening of dining and dancing. Velate, is Mr. Boucher going to take you out for dining and dancing tonight?
Velate, we were going to, but I think it's your nephew back there who said he's going to take you out to dinner. But I tell you what, good excuse, I tell you what, on your 125th, I'll have Mr. Wright parachute from an airplane. All right? Okay. Let's sit down and have the band play a number for it. Thank you, band. I don't know who all the people are, but we have people from the news media, and we would like to welcome them here this afternoon. A nice letter that was read to her at that time, in which she has a copy of. Also, Governor George Duke Machen of the state of California sent a very nice birthday message to Miss. It is a pleasure to join with your many friends, your family, and the faculty and students of Center Junior High who have gathered today to honor you on your 100th birthday. You will celebrate this day with the combined best wishes of all those who have come to know, love, and respect you and your remarkable life. I am sure that your personal contributions in the form of your daily activities and learned insights have been of immeasurable value to your family and friends. What a wonderful and unique accomplishment it is to reach such a fullness in years. Please accept my heartiest best wishes on this great milestone in your life. Happy birthday, Velate. Best regards, Pete Wilson. So I'd like to present this to you, Velate, on behalf of Senator Wilson. We also have a representative, a member of the House of Representatives, Representative Vic Fazio, and there's a presentation to be made by him, his representative.
My name is Mackie Shalene. I come from Congressman Fazio's office. We have this letter for you. He just went back to Washington yesterday and sorry he couldn't be here himself. I wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your 100th birthday. You have reached your milestone. Best wishes for your great birthday celebration. Sincerely, Vic Fazio, Member of Congress. Thank you, dear brother.
I mentioned that Governor Germain sent a letter. We have now from Assemblywoman Duffy's office 2 of her aides who, along with the office of State Senator Leroy Green, have a, well, it's a resolution, isn't it, from the state legislature. So would you like to come up? Harold, are you going to come up here too? You let the women do it all, huh? Okay.
Okay. My name is Barbara Beller from Assemblywoman Duffy's office. What I have is a state resolution that briefly summarizes all the wonderful things that Mrs. Richardson has done in her life and everything that she shared with you. All I can say is on behalf of Jean and Senator Green that you have shared some special memories that you'll never forget. Congratulations.
Well, now she's received the congratulations from the President of the United States, the United States Senate, the United States House of Representatives, the Governor of California, the State Legislature of California, and now some very, very important people, the Center Junior High Student Body Presidency. And so we'd like to invite first, and we went to no expense, so we want you to listen what the presentations are. So we'll first hear from Jennifer Hawkins, our Student Body President.
I am very proud to present you with this honorary lifetime student body card in hopes that you will join us at our school activities. Please accept this gift on behalf of Center Junior High. Happy 100th birthday.
See now, you can come to every basketball, football, baseball game and you won't even have to pay. Pretty good. Now, and our school dances too. We now would like to have a presentation from our student body vice president, Mr. Cornelius Marsh.
On behalf of Center Junior High School, we'd like to give you this hot stuff, Center, for your happy 100th birthday.
Hot stuff. long hours in her garden. So she's got a nice shirt she can wear after she works in the garden. Now she needs something to cover her head so she doesn't get sunstroke, and we've asked our student body secretary, Marla Dobson, to come out.
On behalf of the Center Junior High student body, I would like you to present you with the Center Warriors hat.
Okay, now, Lynn, you've got a student body card, you've got a shirt, you've got a hat. Now, there's one other thing you have. You've got one of the most beautiful birthday cakes I've ever seen. Now, I didn't know your granddaughter, Jane, worked for Bel Air when I called them. But I called Bel Air Markets, and I was going to see how much they would charge for a cake. And, you know, we thought we could spring a few dollars for Mrs. Richardson. And when I called and I said what I was looking for, they said, oh, you're calling the wrong number. Call this number. So I called the next number, and the man said, call this number after 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I called the third number, and the man said, could you meet me down here in Broderick, West Sacramento, tomorrow morning after 5 o'clock? And it was after 5 o'clock. And I went down there, and he said, hey, for a 100-year-old gal, we've got to do this up right. He says, how big do you want it? I says, how big do you make a cake? And he said, well, when a man came home as a POW from Vietnam, we made a cake 52.5 feet long, and everybody in the town of Broderick had a piece of cake. How many people will be there? And I said, oh, about 350 to 400. And he said, Mr. Boucher, how about making it on a 4x8 plywood sheet? We thought that was great, and then we remembered with our earthquake doors, couldn't get it through the door. So we had to measure the door, and we found that the cake could go through if it was under 34 inches. So I think the cake is 6 feet long and 33 inches wide. They said, what can we put on the cake? And I said, well, she's lived from the days of the Indians to the man on the moon. And don't you think Bel Air made a special cake, kids? I would also like to say that florist, some people I know in the florist, they said, hey, we've got to make sure she's got a lovely corsage. So the people at the Eastern Arden Florist donated this. Thank you. Now, as our guests, have you folks all seen the cake? If you haven't, before Mrs. Richardson gets to that cake, I think you should just walk over and take a good look at it. Because we're going to cut it, and then every student is going to have a piece of birthday cake before they go to class. So, those people who haven't seen it, and don't any of your students get up, but would you adults like to go over it because the kids all saw it at lunchtime? Could you strike up the band, please? Let's everybody sing. I just about forgot. Mr. Wright, can you have Mrs. Richardson just turn around for a second? Velate, I forgot one card. It's a sort of a big one. It's Velate Richardson, 100 years young. And inside it says, congratulations for reaching this great milestone from your friends at Center Junior High. And we have all this...
One being constructed and the other completely put together for a very special birthday. Here's Steve.
Channel 3 presents Newsreel with Steve LaRosa.
The kids at Center Junior High School played host to Mrs. Velate Robinson today as they helped her celebrate her 100th birthday. This is the 6th year that Mrs. Robinson has spoken to the students, sharing experiences which, as her birthday cake illustrates, span the time from stagecoaches to spaceships.
Have you ever been on an airplane? Yes. And how old were you the first time you flew?
I was 95.
Mrs. Robinson received letters and proclamations from President Reagan as well as Governor Deukmejian. But of all the honors bestowed upon her, she seemed most proud of her Center Junior High t-shirt and her Center Junior High ball cap.
We'd like to say goodbye, and when she comes home, she don't ask us nothing. We won't tell her nothing. So, you see, I think that's been a good thing. Yeah. We have worried about it. And her house, I guess, will be ready for 16. She will be. Yeah. Well, I'll be kind of glad when she says move in. Honestly, everything is so upset here, you know. There isn't room for some more furniture.
You go over by Alicia? We've just come over to grandmother's. It's a Sunday afternoon on December the 7th. What? I just took a few pictures of grandmother inside, and Alicia and Sierra are out on the front lawn underneath the old fig tree. I'll have to zoom in on this fig tree because it's really an unusual tree. I'm going to walk around and get another shot of it. Why don't you girls walk out towards Shirley's car a little bit, okay?
I have to go back in the house first.
Okay, just a second. A picture of Alicia. She's been a really good girl today, and she's just getting ready to go back inside the house and talk to Grandma. So I'm going to zoom on out, get a picture of the house. It was about when Grandmother turned 100 years old, we all came over and re-insulated. We went through the entire house. Mr. McLaughlin came by from next door, and Eric and I and Kent climbed under the attic, and Roy was over too, not under the attic, but under the basement. And we put the insulation under the flooring, subflooring under the house. So it's completely insulated. The walls were all shot with insulation, and the ceilings and the walls up in the attic were all insulated. And then we went through, and you can still see a few holes that we haven't finished painting on the second story, but other than that, things are looking pretty good. Here's little Alicia. She found some crackers. Every time the girls come over to grandmother's, first they give her a hug, and second they run into the pantry to see if there's any cookies or crackers. I think the reason Sierra's turned around right now is she has a mouthful of crackers. Out of this old fig tree. I don't think there's a leaf on it right now. And you can see how the branches kind of grow into each other. Gnarled. The thing is really quite an old tree. It's been broken down a number of times, but it still bears fruit pretty well during the summer. Probably gives good three harvest. kind of landmarks of grandmother's house that I always look for when we first pull in. This hedge here has been trimmed for ever since I was probably 3 or 4 years old. I remember grandmother first starting on it. First it was about halfway up between the top of the railing there and the porch. Each year that hole in the center gets a little smaller, but it still looks like a basket. This is the third landmark of grandmother's house. In fact, there's quite a story behind it. Actually, there's 4. The pump house is another one that's kind of a special, but the silk tree. Grandmother had a dream that when she moved out to this new property that she would have a silk tree on it. Her husband...
You go pick up Sonia and Jane?
No, they're out visiting. They won't be back for a while. So when grandmother had just lived here a short time on this on the property, when a lady across the street came over and asked her if she'd like a silk tree. You can see the thing probably stands 20 feet tall now. Of course, it's fall time, and all there are is some dried leaves and stems on it, but it's a gorgeous tree in the summer. And then off behind that's the old pump house with the rooster up there that Dad built. The old landmark of checking out the weather vane. Let's go back inside, okay? Okay.
Oh, let us come. And I said, well, I think that Jane and Shirley and I would like to buy a wedding cake. Oh, she says, I wouldn't think about a wedding cake. But it wouldn't be right without a wedding cake.
No, it wouldn't.
She said, oh, I'm glad you spoke about it.
That's a good idea.
Because she said, that'd be a good idea, see. So that's all I know. And so Shirley said, she said she'd call back. I don't know what she wanted to talk to Shirley about.